So I hope all of you are ready. Hello and welcome to Facts First PH's Research Briefing today, our third, and this is happening every Friday, 10 a.m. I'm your host, Dejela Gonzalez. We are live now on the Facebook pages of Rappler, MovePH, our civic engagement arm, and Newsbreak, our investigative unit, as well as on the pages of several other partners of the Facts First PH coalition. We have a very interesting study that its authors will be presenting to us today. But before that, a quick introduction of what Facts First PH is. Facts First PH is a dynamic coalition of more than 100 media and civil society groups coming together and taking a stand to protect the facts and move towards a healthier and safer public space online. The coalition is composed of several operational layers, all working towards that goal. The weekly research briefing is part of the research layer wherein research groups conduct an analysis of the data generated through this effort to gain insights and narratives and networks aimed at manipulating the public ahead of the elections. Today's research briefing is for a study titled Depoliticization of the Political and Facebook Group. Sorry, that's a, that's a mouthful. The study looked at a sample of Facebook posts made within May 2021 to February 2022 in Facebook groups. The posts studied are public and talked about election-related topics. The posts are studied as to how they may cause depoliticization or users or participants disengaging from healthy political democratic discussion within these groups or posts as the result of several factors, which our authors will discuss. Our authors today will also explain why the continued responsible participation of society's members is important, is an integral part of democracy, and one that must be protected from efforts of from being depoliticized. Our authors, we have Julian Tessa Baldo Cubelo. She's an associate professor at the Department of Communication Research of the College of Mass Communication, University of the Philippines, Diliman. She teaches qualitative research analysis in the undergraduate and the graduate programs. Her research interests are communication and culture, representation in advertisements, feminist standpoint, and participatory communication. Luisa Pineda is a research assistant at the Philippine Media Monitoring Laboratory of the UP Department of Communication Research. She recently graduated from the London School of Economics and Political Science with a degree in Media, Communication, and Development. Her research interests include media and disinformation, labor and migration, gender and climate justice. Last but not the least, we have Candice Marie Perez, a senior high school faculty at the De La Salle University Integrated School. She teaches the course Media and Information Literacy as her main assignment and other subjects under the Arts and Design track. She is currently taking her Master's in Communication at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. We'll have a Q&A at the end of the briefing, so please write down your questions in our Q&A box so our authors can address them. Okay, so we'll give the floor to Julian. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Jello. Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. May I now share my PowerPoint deck? All right. So thank you for choosing to spend this morning with us, and thank you for the curiosity about our research project. Okay, so once again, I am Julian Tessa Baldocobello. Luisa and Candice will be joining me later in the open forum. So the title of our research is Depoliticization of the Political in Facebook Groups. I know, Jello, it's a mouthful. Talagang kailangan ulit-ulitin namin sa amin mga dila para masanay, no? Depoliticization. Okay? So I will not First, my task for today is I will share the findings on the first part of our research project, the depoliticization part, and then some initial inferences. No? Ibig sabihin, meron kaming second part na initial reading pa lang ang ginawa namin. But we have come up with initial insights that might be helpful for everyone. I will not share images and screenshots for the protection of those who own the posts or the Facebook groups, their administrators and the members, and of course for our protection as well. Okay, but we have verbatim quotations and just words, no? So, but please know that data include photographs, videos, and so on and so on. Where are we coming from? What is the curiosity? As we love to think about things in the Department of Communication Research when we embark on new communication puzzles, we started with this interest in this noise, in this engagement, in this high activity in our digital spaces, especially during after the COC filings of our presidential posters. Talaga masyadong umingay. But we are also at the back of our minds, we're also thinking, is this really true? Is this really high engagement? So we were drawn to an image of a room. Okay, so all throughout this sharing, I will be inviting you to an image of a room where there is a lot of activity, noise. Perhaps it's a party, perhaps it's a dancing where people are gathering and talking and exchanging saliva and sweat and just rubbing elbows with a lot of people. So, pwede nating sabihin, if nasa loob tayo ng kwartong ito, parang ang saya naman dito, parang ayos to, nag-uusap tayo, nagkakaintindihan tayo, we are putting ourselves out there, our minds, our hearts, our souls. But on the other hand, we also suspected that inside this room, there might be people who might have participated, who might have danced, for instance, no? Tapos biglang, ay, titigil na lang ako kasi parang naman nilang, ang galing naman nila magsayaw. Or maybe others have brought the dance instructors at biglang, ay, yung sayaw ko kanina na talagang spontaneous lang ay parang hindi naman bagay sa ganyang klaseng sayaw. So there might be people who might sit down and might be discouraged in further participation. Okay? And aside from those inside the room, inside this noisy, high activity room, there might also be people outside the room who might be first discouraged to go inside. Okay? Perhaps because may mga lumalabas, ay wag na tayo pumunta doon kasi parang medyo iba na ang nangyayari sa loob. And there might be people whose idea of not joining in the first place is affirmed and validated. Sabi ko na nga ba, wag na tayong pumasok. So, our basic arguments are noise in digital spaces, especially in this particular research. Noise may not necessarily mean participation. Maybe you are there, maybe you are present, but maybe you are not participating. And high engagement in digital sphere does not guarantee quality engagement. So just to clarify, this is first and foremost an academic research paper. We set out the question: how is depoliticization manifested in political content and discussions in Facebook groups? So, clarifications before we continue. What do we mean by political? So, we just started with a very generic, very simple definition. When we say political in this paper, we mean this belief in participation in the public sphere. As long as we think it's worth it. It's worth it to voice out our opinions, to make to declare our political stances, as long as we think that we are doing so because we believe that we can always better our situations regardless of the presence or absence of discontent or criticism at this point. So ibig sabihin, kontento tayo, hindi man tayo kontento with our current situation, or pwedeng nasa gitna tayo, okay, it's a spectrum all the time. Dapat, no, that is our bias. Dapat we continue to participate. So to be political, okay, means to participate, to signify, to register, to voice out, to raise our hand, to continue to agree, to continue to disagree if we disagree. What else? To continue to be interested in how people are thinking, in how people are assessing and evaluating, to go out there, to talk, to converse, to discuss. So that's what we mean by to be political. Now, ano ang depoliticization? At napaka-counterintuitive naman na we can be depoliticized even in the midst of political. So, why is it possible? Is it possible? That is what we are arguing for this morning. That yes, okay, it is not as urgent, or maybe not even be critical as compared to like outright manipulation, because depoliticization can go under our noses unnoticed, unchecked, and therefore enabled. So sa amin hindi pwedeng i-underestimate that kung ikaw, bibo ka, hyper ka, you are putting yourself out there, you are posting, you're commenting, you are replying, you might not be thinking of other people, your neighbor, your loved ones, your students, your peers, your parents, who might have, who might be thinking of not joining anymore or just keeping quiet. So there are many manifestations of depoliticization that we have surfaced. Okay, so I hope those two basic. I know the other word is a mouthful, but I hope my allegory of this room has helped you put that image in your head. So our research design is qualitative, it's textual analysis, it is an interpretivist approach to research. Okay, so it is our reading, it is our position. We are using our lenses through which we understand data. However, please let us not mistake qualitative research with lack of rigor or system. Okay, so where are we coming from? We are coming from a belief that we think that we should be political, we should be participating. So that is our disclosed bias. Ibig sabihin, hindi dapat na nagtatago tayo sa mga sulok. So that is our subjective position, and that is how we interpret the texts that we have studied. We use two sampling techniques for the selection of our data. One is maximum variation and intensity sampling. A maximum variation is that we started with a corpus, with a data corpus of 5,300 plus unique Facebook posts in Facebook groups. At sinuyod namin itong 5,000 plus, and we arrived at a variety. So, ibig sabihin, pag sinabi namin variety, dapat kasali halos lahat ng mga first presidentiables and the issues that they are carrying, right? So, we also use the constructed week tool, where we made sure that from quarters 1 to 3, so our quarter 1 started in May 2021, okay, to August, that's quarter 1, and then August to October 2021, that's our quarter 2, and quarter 3 is October to January 2022. So for each quarter, we had 2 constructed weeks, meaning we just made sure that for every Monday, meron kaming nakuhang post, and then the Tuesday the following week meron kaming nakuhang post, and then the Wednesday the following week. So meron pa rin siyang some level of randomness. Now, if you have questions, more questions about our method, we are very much excited to clarify those inquiries later. Okay? So we started with a 5,000 data corpus, ibig sabihin 5 unique FB posts in Facebook groups that are politically related. Okay, so we had our keywords, and then we ended up for samples because 54 is enough for a qualitative research undertaking like textual analysis. So it's textual analysis. So when we say textual analysis, we mean by text, we mean posts. So either shared or original, videos, posters, social media cards, shout outs, photos. Okay? And then by text, we also mean embedded text. Nasa loob mismo ng mga videos, posters, media cards. And then the outposts, usually the captions. Diba kasi may post ka tapos may nagdadalang captions. But not all posts had captions. In fact, maraming walang captions. Wait, may bubuyog sa akin. Okay, and then using high intensity sampling, we just looked at the 5 high engaged comments, the highest engaged comments in every post. Okay? We also look at the directionality of shared posts. Saan ito nanggaling? Tapos sino ang mga nag-share? Usually, we look at the source of the post shared inside the Facebook group. So the shared posts come from all directions, like other platforms and other uh, Facebook sub-platforms like Facebook pages. So magkaiba si Facebook group from Facebook pages. So that's what we mean by text. So hindi lang siya yung worded text. So okay, let's go straight to the findings kasi medyo limited ang ating oras. So first finding, no? What are the manifestations of this depoliticized activity? So one is when there is absolutism, when absolute truths are present and they prohibit opinion making as a process. Okay, balik tayo sa definition namin ng political. Political is in the belief that opinion making should be a continuum. No? Parang ang attitude that natin dapat with being political is that my opinion is for now. Is for now. My opinion on what should work is based on what I know, based on what I have studied. This is, I think, how should things go. For now. It's not my opinion is final and absolute for all time, for all eternity. Now, when there are, and there's many of these, no? Absolutism, ang mga kabaro nito ay mga fundamentalism, ang natatangi at tunay, nag-iisa at nararapat. Nako, we feel, nakita namin na maraming talagang hindi tumutuloy. No? In fact, ang daming mga posts, for instance, that carry this absolutist voices, the singularity of opinion, only this leader, only this path, that many just see it. Parang sinisin lang siya. Wala masyadong, nagsisilang siya. Okay? So, examples would be from a comment. No, pwede natin sabihin, ako, napaka-common. Yun nga, no? Nasasanay tayo that when we engage, wala na. We do not even begin with issues with, economic development issues. Yun na lang, no? Branding na lang tayo kung sino man ang ating sinusuportahan. Okay? Another quotation from a comment, wala nang dapat pang pag-usapan pa. Huwag na tayong magpakabuang. Si person X na tapos na ang laban, magsiuwi na tayo. And I guess you see now the examples of absolutism. So, complexity is not included. There is no again, there is no continuum that is even respected. So ang tanong namin, paano na lang kung may mga taong nagde-decide pa, nagugulumihanan pa, or hindi nakikialam, no? The movement, no? If we look at opinion making as a process or as a movement from point A to point B, paano na lang ang iba who might be in the movement between, say, being miseducated to getting educated. Okay? Their chance might be in a Facebook group that they are familiar with, that they are comfortable with. Now, with absolutism, this chance may be taken away from them kasi parang wala naman akong lugar dyan. Okay? The second manifestation is, the presence of simplistic binaries that do not expand deliberation. Ito yung black and white, either or, good or bad, moral, immoral, intelligent, stupid. So napaka-common dito, no? So again, if there are people who are already there, so remember that Facebook groups are very convivial, very familiar digital spaces because many of these did not start out as political Facebook groups. No, there are Facebook groups that started out as a professional resource, as a hobby, relaxation, leisurely activity. So merong camaraderie, I will always use the term conviviality. So merong familiarity. So sayang yung espasyo na yun when all of a sudden there are very simplistic binaries that come out. Hindi naman ako black, hindi naman ako white, nasan ako doon, ay hindi na lang ako sasali. Thus, simplistic, binary, discouraging political activity. So these are very common, this, the us versus them, tayo na superior, tayo na magaling, tayo na nakikialam, sila na, ay nako. Okay? So, napaka-common ng distinction na yun. And we are always accounting for those who may not necessarily, automatically, or confidently identify with either. And they might go for into silence. They might go gently into the night. Okay. The third is resignation to being apolitical as self-preservation. These are the people who might be in the room that have now got out of the room. Okay, at sasabihin nila ko, no, don't go there. It's brutal. It's not worth it. For the sake of our peace of mind, mental health, or friendships. If friendships are at stake, for instance, it's brutal. It's not worth it. Come on, let's not join in. Okay? So sa amin ako, ayaw natin ng apolitical na tao. Ayaw natin ng, ayaw natin na, wala yan, kaya, parang aandar tayo without any form of participation. So our bias is, let us continue to participate, but with our participation, with the noise, with the voice that we're putting out there, we are not repelling, we are not prohibiting, and we are not discouraging other people in doing so. So I will read this. No, this one is sabi ng comment no on a shared vlog. Just a manifestation of a depoliticized thought. Tama, o wag na tayo makisaw-saw, happy lang. I know God will the way. I know we will not abandon us. No more politics. I am tired of this politics. So copy-pasted namin yan. So those are the exact words. So no more politics. I'm tired of this politics. So a manifestation of being depoliticized while being inside the room. Okay? Another one is embodied witnessing through technology as the be-all and end-all. We know how it is empowering to be able to witness something, to be able to record something, and share that something. Diba? Parang ang ating smartphones ay extended ng ating katawan. No? Napaka-embodied ng ating witnessing. Dati kasi when we witness something, we just tell it to another person, we just call a friend, we just write a letter, and through anecdotes, we tell what we witness. Now, we have our smartphones, for instance, and then we record. Sometimes we record activities, or sometimes we sit in front of the camera and tell our audience how we witness some things. So sa amin, empowering to, however, there is a limitation, and sometimes there is a complacency in giving the resibo, especially in posts that have no context, no? Pinost mo siya doon sa Facebook group, tapos wala siyang explanation, wala siyang relationality to your position. For instance, if I share a video, I would prefer that I give a caption that would clarify my context in relation to the video. As a teacher, as a professor, I agree with this video because. As a student or as a parent, I kind of disagree with it because. So my context, so that whatever is shared, okay, is considered as limited and context or in relation to one's position, and not absolute, not certain for all eternity, and not universal. Unfortunately, maraming ganito. No? So what we have found out are of two kinds. One is a person who sits in front of the camera and shares anecdotes. Okay? At napaka-powerful yun, because if one person is willing to make herself visible, sasabihin natin, wala namang tao magsisinungaling, wala namang tao ipapahamak ang sarili natin. So napaka-common na magsisimula, ito ang katotohanan, ito yung totoo ha, nakausap ko talaga si ganito. So in fact, this one is a long, like a vlog type, talking to an audience, looking directly at the camera. So ito ha, totoong kwento ito, sabi dito. Nakausap ko mismo si person X, nakita ko talaga nag-training siya sa ganito. Na-interview ko rin yung director, si person Y, na kwento niya, nagkasama talaga sila. No? But all throughout the video, mahaba yung video, wala siyang pinakitang picture that he actually talked to the director, wala siyang pinakitang, pero napaka-powerful kasi, parang first-person voice, no? So sa amin, napaka-depoliticizing kasi pwedeng hindi na magre-research ang manonood, hindi na magpa-fact check, hindi na magve-verify. And the second type are, the video na parang tinatanim and halos walang caption, walang commentary inside the video. These are just tracking shots of usually candidates doing their thing. So talagang a lot of witnessing, supposedly witnessing of how this person does his or her thing, doing his job, visiting sites, talking to people, pero walang context. Itinatanim lang doon, and then even the one who shared the video, hindi nga clear, does he or she agree with the video? Is he or she endorsing this video? So maraming ganun. Sa amin, So wag tayong ganito. This is what we are saying. If we're going to share something, if we're going to record something, let us have an explainer, a caption, because so many of these materials can be taken into the wrong hands and can be tweaked, can be, alam mo yun, pwedeng ibahin. So always clarify what is your relationship with regard to the post that you are sharing. Okay? Then there is the creation of the atmosphere, the mythification, the mythical. Pag ganito ang usapan, ay napupunta na either of the divine or of the underworld. No? Merong exaggeration that is already beyond this time. No? Pinaka-common dito yung, meron ng may sa demonyo, may mga ganong ng mga tumpak-tumpak, sandamakmak. No? There is that exaggeration, no? A hyper, no, heralding of efforts, for instance. Isa lang ang linagay ko dito kasi ito talaga ang nag-capture sa maraming mga examples. This one is a recorded statement, and that the statement was also used in the caption, that one is making a prophecy of who is going to win in the 2022 election. So, nakakakilabot, no? These terms are already the language of the mythical, no? But aside from this, again, in the simplistic binary, meron dito na, again, sila na mga may sa demonyo, no? Parang of the underworld na ang usapan. What is so depoliticizing about it? Okay? We think that this is depoliticizing because pwedeng mapagod ang iba, no, to disprove or to chase, to chase people if they are already on the level of the mythical. Parang, ayoko nang patulan, hindi ko na kaya, no? Kasi parang nasa langit na, nasa impyerno na ang usapan. Parang hindi ko na yan carry. So again, merong at merong naiiwan. Therefore, merong nadidepoliticized. Okay? Last is audience commodification as political legitimization. This is talagang a provision of space that seems to encourage high engagement, but alam nung ang pinanggagalingan is really the incentive, the monetary incentive. So usually these are shared videos coming from a different platform, usually YouTube, where views and likes and comments are incentivized. So marami, ang example dito is yung gamification. No? So marami nang nagla-live stream ng games. This animated political figures are put inside the ring, the wrestling ring, tapos merong pustahan, merong bet, merong halo-halo, no? May panawagan, merong pabati. So again, merong gamification or cashing in of the political content as entertainment, at pwede nating sabihin, wow, that's good because it helps us think about our political stances, about our political issues. But for us, that is so depoliticizing. Okay? So halimbawa, this is an excerpt from the live stream. Bale, comment lang kayo sa mga gusto nyong i-greet natin dito, ha. Paingayin pa natin ito. Magpakasaya lang tayo dito, ha. Type nyo lang kung sino bet yung pagsabungin natin next month. Kasi pwede kang mag-request kung sino ipapagsabong. So this includes, the current presidentiables, other political figures, other, former presidents and senators, and even celebrities. No? And aside from this, there is this notion that, yung parang i-ano lang natin to, padamihin lang natin to, paingayin lang natin ito, tapos okay na tayo, legitimate na yung ating mga pinaglalaban at pinagsusulong dito. So this is very common, this underscoring of the political achievement in numbers. No? Marami ito. No? Usually na post or comment, grabe, ang dami na natin, winner na tayo dito, 1 million views tayo in one day, sila 100K lang in a week. No? So for me, this is very depoliticizing because one might just participate and just keep looking at the numbers. Okay, then okay na tayo. Yung mga pinaglalaban natin sa ating mga sektor, makakasulong na yan because we get this impression that we're going to be okay, and so we stop sharing our opinion, our assessment, ano bang napag-aralan natin, ano ba ang tingin ng iba dyan. Okay, so do I still have time? So very quickly, the last part is, we are offering images. spatial imagery of how Facebook groups become depoliticizing spaces. So we one is repository. They can be a repository of prejudices. So when we say depoliticized activity, we are not saying that all of the activities in the Facebook groups are depoliticizing. We are just saying that it can also have spaces for depoliticization, especially when they appear to be like repository. So parang tambakan, no? Tambakan kasi again, convivial, familiar, medyo may pagka-relax sa loob ng Facebook uh, groups, kaya wala masyadong nako-call out. So we noticed that political content would be placed side by side lewd content, no? The almost pornographic content. Tapos walang nagko-call out. So prejudice, divisive posts for instance, no? Very common tapos walang nagko-call out. Walang masyadong, uy, mali yan, hindi yan sakop ng ating plantito or plantita group. No? So, nagiging tambakan, nagiging repository. And so, when they are tolerated, they are enabled. Another is service role. They are not as vibrant or not as vigorous as, say, Facebook pages or other platforms, pero they serve their own purpose when it comes to channeling information and opinion to and fro. So, hindi sila kasing bilis ng superhighway, but they can work as service roads. Intersection. Again, like intersections, parang high activity, high engagement, okay to, we are intersecting, no? But when we take a closer look at intersections, masasabi natin na, uy, nagdadaplisan lang naman pala sila. Nagdadaplisan and kinda, alam mo yun, tolerating one another's presence. But like in an intersection, everyone has already a predetermined direction. Parang alam na kung saan papunta. So, hindi na masyadong nakikinig kung ano ang sinasabi ng iba. Intersection. Halfway house. In a halfway house, we are vulnerable, we are cooperating, we are relaxed. And so because, as mentioned in the first imagery, there is tolerance, there is not much call out with lewd or divisive content. A halfway house that is supposedly for resources, right, for relaxation and for what else, expansion of opinion, now can become a halfway house for incitement or illicit recruitment. The last imagery that we are putting out there is the image of a blighted community. So when we say blighted community, these are communities that used to be vibrant. They used to have high socio-economic activity, but now have been foreclosed. There's an overgrowth. There are, paints chipping off walls. There are stray animals. Alam mong napagdaanan ng panahon at alam mong napabayaan when it used to have its glory days. So these are the images that we would like to put forth. So we have seen this, we've visualized many Facebook groups as blighted communities. Kasi kung tinitrace namin ang activities prior to October 2021, for instance, napaka-robust ng discussion, no? Alam mo, may high engage of information and trust and reciprocated like affinity among the members. But once divisive posts come in, once lewd, parang zombie land na siya, parang scene zone land na lang siya. At sayang because that group used to be really, used to have high engagement. But now ngayon parang napag-iwanan na ng panahon. So, I am down to my last slides and I will wrap this up. I'm looking forward to your comments and your questions. So, how do we protect ourselves? We need to own our citizenship. We need to understand what we are consenting to, right? When we join a group, we consented to something. We said yes to something. So if we feel like I did not say yes to this, I did not say yes to this lewd content, I did not say yes to this post that is so divisive, then maybe you can speak up. No, you can speak up. You can talk to the whoever who led the group in the first place. And so these are the red flags. Are we saying that it's not okay to talk about political things when you are in a non-political group? No, in fact, that's okay. But also notice how they can repel others. If it encourages engagements, if it can tolerate different opinions coming from different perspectives, then those posts can be allowed. However, there are really posts that are out of nowhere, without no caption, without context, for instance, that can be very, very divisive. Okay, so we suggested here that know when to leave. So are we encouraging depoliticization? Not actually. Know that you can always find that Facebook group where you can have that safe political engagement. And then, okay, in our last, suggestions, let us continue to ask, let us open our doors to further imagination. Is compassion possible in politics? I'm always looking at it as, if I do not agree with somebody's comment in my Facebook group, for instance, I would always look at, what if this were my brother? What if this were my mother or my loved one who is not agreeing with me? How can I deal with this person? Okay, so is compassion possible in politics? For now, I would say yes, but I don't have clear tools on how to go about it. That's why, please, let's stay at this. No, can we still have a shared meaning? Can we still have a shared meaning? We have experienced the pandemic, but unfortunately, we have different interpretations of the pandemic. And what does it mean to educate others? I have been really thinking hard about this, because before I was really all out, call out, educate. But then I realized, maybe my method is discouraging a lot of people. Maybe I'm repelling them. Maybe I'm discouraging them from entering the room. So lately, like a few days ago, I sat down with my neighbor whose political stance is so different from mine. She is voting for a different presidential. But for almost 1 hour, I just sat down with her and I just listened to her. Okay, this time I did not talk. But the good thing that came out of it was, sabi niya, Prop, next week, ako naman ang makikinig, ikaw naman ang magsasalita. Okay, so maybe I'm thinking, how could I carry that kind of conviviality and respect into my digital spaces? So, there are limitations to digital spaces. We can always, be hyper in our commenting and our posting, but it is limited. Let us not become panty about it. That, since our group is so hyper and so out there, wag nating kalimutan yung ating mga on the ground, spaces. Let's make that call. Let's knock on that door. Let's call that friend. Let's talk to that person, that office mate, that friend. Okay, so that's me. Let us believe in the spaces that are digital. We can create real communities in our digital spaces, but we can also, let us not forget our, real traditional old school communities. I always say our real communities are those who will knock on our door when there is fire at night. So I don't know if I have opened doors in our minds and hearts this morning. We are ready. We are excited for your questions and your comments. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to our questions. Do we have questions already? We'll check that. Okay, so I'll get it started. How do we bring that that listening ability, that ability to listen, to be compassionate in our online spaces, di ba? Parang yun.
That's why I believe in Facebook groups, Jello, because Facebook groups start with familiarity, affinity, usually professional affinity or hobby, affinity. So alam mo may common ground na kayo. No, I've always beginning with the plantito and the plantita. Maraming ganun sa Facebook, but I am a plantita. So meron na kayong sinimulan or mga engineers of ganito, no, or a nurses, di ba? Meron na kayong affinity where you can start. So I used this sitting down with my neighbor on a bench a few days ago. We have affinity with one another kasi nagbibigay kami ng ulam. Alam mo yon? Pero
Mhm.
napakaklaro sa amin na ang aming kulay sa politika. Right?
Mhm.
But I am always, what is this? Encouraged or inspired that every time we meet, we are really actually kind towards each other. In fact, we like each other. So if we could have that room for that possibility of still liking this person, whoever that person is, no? Kung totoo ba yung ginagamit yung pangalan sa Facebook group, the possibility that if I come across this person in real life, there might be a chance that we might be voting for a different presidential, but both of us might really be BTS fans. Alam mo yung, so I think always reserving that, forgive the word, lunatic optimism that there might be some commonalities where we can start from, and that can fuel this respectful conversation.
Yes, we definitely have to move to that more respectful environment, especially now in our information ecosystems. Seems like it's anger, it's hate that's always spreading so quickly. So it's good if we can start somewhere, and for that love to grow, right?
Passion, yes.
Passion, yes.
May I invite Candice and Louisa to turn on their camera
Yes.
because I might run out of English already.
Ayun. So I guess I can ask a few. I can ask one of you. What is it that spurred you to focus specifically on this the politicization in Facebook groups for your research?
Prof. Julian and I were talking about what angle should we be discussing when it comes to disinformation. She actually asked me, to come up with what are the manifestations of disinformation specifically in Facebook groups, no. And then she presented me with this. We perceive it as counterintuitive because we would like to focus on something that might not be explored in the discussion of disinformation. That actually the presence of depoliticization, the depoliticized post, is somehow a subtle way of the disinformation or its effect to an audience. So I believe we are in this study, we are presenting a new lens or a new understanding of how the information or the engagement that we do in the Facebook groups can have the similar effect to what is our common understanding of the impact of disinformation. Since the project is really focused on disinformation, but this is, I think, a new lens where we can look into that our engagements can actually also prevent or inhibit other people to share their opinion, that our activities may also have the same effect with this information, that they are being presented with the fake news or wrong information, and they are completely taken back by this information. So that makes, I think, this study different or new, refreshing, because it's providing a different lens for us to look at our communication and engagement that we does in social media spaces.
Okay. So if there are politicians or certain parties attempting to depoliticize some of the populace, what do they gain from it? What is the effect of depoliticization on, well, let's focus on the upcoming elections now, diba? If people are participating less, they're talking less, what do politicians gain from it if they're trying to push for people to become depoliticized?
I think, no, what can the politician get from it is they can actually strengthen the manifestations of depoliticization that's happening already in the digital spaces. One is to keep their loyal followers to continue to be so passionate in supporting them. Perhaps the view of not being able to further improve what we know. That's why I like what you've mentioned, what is presented in the study, which is opinion making is actually continuum. Learning is actually continuum. When we stop learning, then we cannot be we cannot further improve our understanding of the current situation. How can it be beneficial to some of the candidates or the politicians? I think yun nga, establishing the support system that they already have. And it, of course, would have an impact on their possible win and also to pushing forward their agendas.
Mhm. I guess it protects their agendas from from being occupied pa
Question.
by other
Mhm.
ideas from the other
Mhm.
from whoever they're campaigning against, di ba, yung mga
Exactly.
kalaban.
Mhm.
So do you think it contributes to the echo chamber effect in social media, this depoliticization?
Yes, definitely. Because as mentioned, no, we are already fixed in the concept of absolutism. We are already fixed to our understanding without allowing any other people to correct us. And at the same time, if we try to educate, the manner by which we educate could also repel other people to listen to us. So so I think yon I agree, no, it's creating or establishing further this filter bubbles and echo chambers that we are currently experiencing or
It's wor-
witnessing in the
it,
digital space.
it's worsening the echo chamber effect. Okay.
Siguro dito, I would like to
Yes.
share my, yung aking mga musings as a teacher.
Mm.
Because we need to be political because we need to grow. We need to keep growing. That's the whole point. Uh, Being stagnant is death, right? If we
Mhm.
have come up to we have come at something and that's the final version of it, that's the end of us. That's where we're coming from. But as a teacher, I always tried and tested methods in how I can communicate across, no? Yung criticism ko ba, yung aking paglagay ng red mark sa papel ng aking estudyante. Of course, I am always coming from a good intention of educating my students. Come on, you can do it. You can. I am pushing you forward because I believe in you. But perhaps there might be other options aside from just encircling the wrong grammar and everything. Perhaps I can also underline things that that they have done right. So through the years that I've been testing these methods out, I realized that there's, again, as an educator, the one who's educating, there's always that surprise of learning a new method, a new style, a new tone, a new nonverbal language, or a new way of engaging with people who might share a different opinion from them.
So it's a continuous learning, continuous engagement, and that contributes to the healthy to a healthy discussion on things.
And I'm always looking for the ones who are quiet.
Yeah.
Kasi parang hindi ko na po problema yung maingay, yung opinionated. Alam ko talagang sige na.
Mhm.
Especially the ones who are studying, who are researching, who are really doing the SWOT analysis at this point and talking to different sectors. What I'm really thinking about are those who are quiet, who are, alam mo, hindi ko makapa. So those are, and marami sila marami silang ganun.
Okay, so we have a question from our audience. During your data gathering, have you encountered Facebook groups that have outright said that political posts are not allowed within the group? And how does this contribute to depoliticization?
I think I'd like to jump in on this question. So when we were going through the sampling, and Prof. Julian already mentioned that this was a corpus of more than 5,000 something posts on different types of Facebook groups. I just also want to give the context that when we narrowed down the sample from that 5,000 something to around 54, around 20% of those have group titles that explicitly say or explicitly support a presidential candidate. The rest were actually interest groups, hobby groups. And when we check we all check the sort of admin description, the group description of these public Facebook groups. And when we checked, some of them, in fact, did have these admin rules like the typical, you're not allowed to post this and this content. This is only for, let's say, gardening, or this is only for posts about buy and sell. But the fact that that this sample surfaced in our corpus is already telling of the mere presence of the post, um, in spite of that warning, or in spite of that admin detail, no, is already telling of how this is, as Ma'am Baldo Cobello mentioned, it's tolerated, it's allowed, it wasn't taken down. So that has, I guess, something to do with how much this is also allowed in these types of spaces.
Okay, thank you. Um, can I ask about what your assumptions were heading into the study, and were you surprised with what you found, or were they in line with your expectations?
I like to answer this one because
Go
personally,
ahead.
I think we all expected to see posts posted on Facebook groups with high engagement, when in fact we saw a lot of them were scene zone. We saw a lot of them had maybe one comment that was we found very neutral. So I think going into this, we were expecting, oh my gosh, ang daming pasabog siguro nito. But in fact, we were always sort of taken back to the original post and the original post engagement. But that's already telling, kasi when you see the shared Facebook post doesn't have a lot of engagement. What does this say about who posted this? What does this say about the group this post belongs in? And also, what does that say about the overall, notion of depoliticization?
Okay. So the posts that you sampled were from May 2021 to February 2022. Uh, may na-notice ba kayo no na the of a higher number of instances of depoliticization as we neared the elections? Tumaas ba intensity niya? Nadagdagan ba siya? Ayun.
Yes, definitely tumaas ang intensity at mas naging varied talaga ang the types of content that are toing and froing. Diba? So, dito talaga lumabas na yung high production na mga content, no? So, kaya siya service road para sa amin because even if inside the Facebook groups there's low engagement, napaka-open kasi ng gate doon sa original source. Where there is high engagement and there is like fight talaga, no? So, dito talaga mas maingay, mas halos, the number of reactions, okay? And the you think you have seen it in quarters one and two, like the
Yeah.
posters, the vlogs. Nako, the quarter three would still surprise you with the creativity and the grabe yung pagmorph ng approximation ng parang all kinds of media. Like, it's a little bit of a concert, it's a little bit of a sabong, it's a little bit, so mas naging creative, mas naging high level production value.
Okay. So, itong people are already familiar with fake news, and there are already strategies in dealing with instances of fake news. We debunk them. Pero itong mga efforts to make people disengage from the political conversation, it seems to be more insidious. Is that would you say that that's the right characterization for these efforts of depoliticization? It's insidious.
Yeah, we are not taking that possibility. We are always considering that there are really intentional, okay, like intentional, clever, smart, hands behind this. There are people who are intentionally doing this. There's also, of course, the Facebook algorithm that just is just so above us, right? So hindi yan mawawala, no? Hindi yan mawawala. Especially if, with the presence of data dumping, napaka ano niya kasi, so we're always thinking this content came from somewhere. right? This
Mhm.
content was created by somebody or a group of people, okay, intended to be put out there. Okay, the fact that it made its way into this group is something that we don't think is innocent.
Mhm.
Okay, we don't think that's innocent. I'm sure may portion dyan that is, like people reacting to it, impulsively sharing it, but it came from somewhere. It is created by a person or a group of people. Okay, and I think that data, yung pagtatanim, kumbaga no, the seeding in one article in the Facts First by Professor Tadok, the seeding, the doubt seeding is something that we can never, ignore to be like a simple innocent act.
Mhm. Anong tips nyo for the audience now or who want to deal with this depoliticization efforts?
I will start with my Facebook group, and I will go back to um, what did I say yes to in this group. Now, because I am that kind of person who can tolerate a political content to come in, I can tolerate that. I can engage in that. However, now my impulse, now my confidence in joining should not also make me complacent about it. I would need to think about my action. Pag pinatulan ko ba ito, okay? Pag pinaingay ko pa ito dito, will I be able to silence those who are already silent? So it's really ibig sabihin, Jello, I am no longer just checking about my action. I am also thinking about the effect of my action on other people. Okay? So if feeling ko divisive na, okay, that the tone in the conversation thread is already divisive, my politics, I would say, I would no longer contribute to that. But if really I have like a burning opinion, I would actively seek for that space where this can be given like an air to breathe. Okay, but also in that space, I would always caution myself na magkikringe ako kagad, mag-arg ako agad if I see comments that are different from my political alignments. So ano talaga siya, Jello? Grabe yung mental health strength talaga, di ba? Na can I tolerate? I'm always thinking, what if it's my daughter saying that? What if it's my brother saying that? Alam mo yung,
Yeah.
can I should not automatically, relate it with like evil or, inferiorize it immediately. Parang pagbigyan at tolerate it and sit beside it.
And that takes a lot of mental
Takes
and
a
emotional
extra
energies.
oo, I know. So, bigyan mo rin ng curfew yung
Yeah.
katawan mo. Parang, ay, 4 o'clock, I'm done. I'm going out
Okay.
for a run na and talk to my neighbor na
Yeah.
lang.
Recharge muna. Recharge muna
Recharge
offline
muna,
ulit.
yes.
Okay. Can I just get your final statements? So before we end this briefing.
Siguro ako, I would like to answer also yung final question on the tips or how do we actually engage. Actually, it's a different, it's a difficult question really to answer because also you are invested on the engagements and discourse that we're having on our online spaces. But one thing that I personally observed, by looking into the data that we have. One is how we view our participation in these digital spaces. Parang walang ownership. Kaya one of the things that we mentioned in our paper is we should own our citizenship in these digital spaces. With that in consideration, that would mean you also have to look into not just what you're doing, but also how it can influence the members of that community. Feel ko, the way I see it, we are parang Facebook is just there. It's part of, our extra space where we engage, where we participate. Like lang tayo ng like, join lang tayo ng join without really considering what could be its implication or impact. So I'm very particular to claiming your citizenship, just like how you are a citizen of a nation or a community. You own your responsibility. You have an accountability, and therefore whatever you put there, whatever engagement you participate in, that means meron siyang impact dun sa mga kasama mo sa community na iyon. And I think that's also the final statement that I would give for this study. Thank you.
Siguro for me as well, there was a comment here in the chat that says, I like the last bit of Professor Baldocobello's talk, which is not forgetting our real world communities. But in a way, digital has become sort of our real world in a sense, especially during the time of the pandemic. So there is, I think, equal or even during these times, even greater weight when it comes to taking care of ourselves when faced with different types of content online. And when it comes to Facebook groups, these are places that are sort of our safe haven, as discussed. These are supposedly places that a space that we trust and that we have common ground in. And I think in order to protect these spaces, probably it is a call also to people who are in these Facebook groups, or maybe those who manage these Facebook groups, to encourage healthy conversation, to encourage these types of discussions that benefit not just the group, but also people who may not be as engaged, people who are outside the room, invite them to the room, and perhaps maybe something good can come out of it. And we can only hope for that in this coming election season and beyond.
Okay, so it's me na the last word. I always find it actually good that we are much kinder in person. So if we could always take that as a thought and they transport it into our digital spaces, kung kaya, kasi ganito, di ba? Pilipino tayo eh. We do not laugh in front of a person. We hold it, no? Kung iinsultuhin natin sila, kahit meron tayong pagpipigil, no? But in our digital spaces, it's so easy to click that laugh emoji, right? But we do not do that in person. Pwedeng nagtitimpi tayo, pwedeng. So, we have the tools for tolerance and respect and kindness and compassion. We just have taken the digital space for granted. Feeling natin tapunan ng basura. Okay, so I agree with Candice and Louisa. These are very important spaces. We are privileged to have them. So wag natin silang i-underestimate, wag nating pabayaan. At hindi pwede, hindi porket ang nasa harap natin ay malinis. Di ba yung may ganon tayo mentality? Pero okay lang na itapon natin yung basura natin sa kabilang block or kabilang barangay. So, the good behavior that I think we're still able to do somehow in our neighborhoods and our communities, offline, I think it's so easy. Let's just, accommodate them, transport them into our behaviors in digital spaces.
All right. Because it's just so easy to click on that laugh emoji kasi,
Easy, but we don't do that, right?
Yeah.
Sa harapan.
Yeah. But
Delikado
in
ang
real life,
buhay
you don't
mo.
do that.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Julian, Luisa, and Candice. Amazing work. Thank you for spending your time here at this research briefing that has been it's been incredible, and we hope to hear from you soon again. All right. So to our audience, before we let you go, we just want to tell you that we have tip lines for submission of posts containing dubious claims on Viber or Messenger. And the checking layer of this Facts First initiative will verify these claims and publish reports debunking lies or misleading information. For groups interested, they may reach out to Facts First by sending an email to info@factsfirst.ph. All right, this has been Jello Gonzalez, and thank you and see you again.